Everybody, welcome to committee. We will go ahead and start our meeting of House Higher Ed Budget. Today is the day we've all been waiting for. It's our last day to meet on our recommendations. We will have a few meetings after turnaround because we'll be considering some bills, but as far as our budget work, this is the day. And so what I plan to do today is just open it up. We're not going to go specific with each university or Board of Regents. We're just going to open it up and let you all tell me what you're interested in, and I think we'll have good, robust discussion, and we will end up with a recommendation at the end of the day. So I am open to hearing committee what you would like to do on our recommendations for higher ed budget. Representative Woodard.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I would do. Thank you, Madam Chair. I would move that we concur with the governor's recommendation for fiscal year 2022.
Do we have a second? Representative Riley? Second. Okay, thank you. We're working on 2022. Discussion committee. Okay, no discussion? No discussion on 2022? Okay. Do you have a question, Representative Wassinger, about that? Nope. Just 1 second. There's no discussion, or did you have a question? Okay, if there's no discussion, we will go ahead and vote on if this committee moves to Appropriations Committee, the governor's recommendations on fiscal year 2022. All those in favor say aye. Oh, I'd like to close.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I close.
Thank you for that point of order. I appreciate it. All those in favor say aye. Opposed? Okay, so we will accept the governor's recommendations for fiscal year 2022. Okay, now we will move on to fiscal year 2023. Representative Woodard.
Madam Chair, I move the adoption of the governor's recommendation for fiscal year 2023.
Second. Representative Amick seconds. Okay, committee, now what discussion do we have on fiscal year 2023? Representative Riley.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And again, this, like you say, this is opening up the discussion, but my initial thought was that we would not put in the governor's budget recommendation for the $45.7 million of base funds for the regions. I think that's for the regions.
Are you making a motion on that? This discussion, okay. Discussion on possibly taking out the $45.7 million. Any? Representative Woodard.
Thank you, Madam Chair. If this were to be a motion, I would be in opposition. I think we've heard from each of the institutions that this would get them back to pre-pandemic levels, which are close to 2008 levels without adjusting for inflation. This would include a higher ed inflation adjustment and also include enough additional investment that the institutions have agreed to keep tuition flat, which is important to me. That issue is what got me involved in advocating in this very building. And so if this is a motion, I would have to oppose that. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Any other discussion? Any thoughts on that? Representative Amix.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. I agree with my ranking minority member. I think it is so important. We have the opportunity here, as was discussed in the hearings that we had, that this is going to be the first time that students have been able to go to school for 4 years without an increase in tuition. And I think that is extremely important. But I just think that is an important message that we can be sending. So I stay in favor of the
Any other discussion? Representative Fairchild.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Could you let me know what we're discussing?
We don't have a motion on the table right now. Representative Riley just kind of threw out there the discussion on the 45.7 million to the Board of Regents. And we're just having some discussion at the moment.
But we're not actually on the Board of Regents. It's just a general discussion.
Okay, so what I mentioned at the beginning, and I know you had to go to a hearing, so I understand why you were late. What I mentioned at the beginning is we're not going to go entity by entity. I'm just gonna open it up and people can bring up amendments, whatever they want. We have already agreed that we're gonna on the governor's recommendations for fiscal year 2022. And so now we're talking about fiscal year 2023, and we're just kind of having some general discussion at the moment till we get going. I have a feeling there'll be more of it just till we get going. Representative Fairchild.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I guess I would just point out that I'm the one who came up with the amendment to remove the 45 million. Even without that amendment, the figures that I have it would still be a 15.94% increase in FGF spending for the Board of Regents for 2023. So the point of the amendment was just to have a little bit of fiscal responsibility brought back into the discussion. You know, we're still talking about a over three times, increase in spending when you look at the rate of inflation. And so the goal of it was just to try to bring the spending increase down just a little bit.
So did you make a motion, or it was just?
Are we ready for a motion, or are we just having discussion on it?
Yeah, we're ready for a motion if you would like to make one. I mean, I'm open to the committee discussing, and if you're ready to make a motion, then we can hear it now. Or if you want to wait, that's fine.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I moved my amendment that would reduce SGF spending for 2023 from the governor's recommendation of $353,059,507 down to $308,059,507.
And so just one second. And so just to clarify. Okay, yeah, that would be great. Seconded by Representative Riley. And would you like to, Jill, do you feel like you need to explain this at all? Okay, it's self-explanatory. Okay, I'll take just a second to look at this. So we have an amendment, we have a motion, and we have a second. Does anyone have any discussion? Representative Woodard.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'll just restate my opposition to this for the comments that I made previously. Thank you.
And to clarify, if I could ask a question, the amounts that you're saying here, if we subtract the 45.7 million, that's where you got to that number specifically. Okay. All right. Anyone else discussion? Representative Rajas.
Thank you. Thank you. If I can ask the maker of the amendment, so you're agreeing with everything else in the governor's recommendations, and you're okay with region schools being able to raise tuition as much as they feel they need to? That's what it looks like to me. If we take that away, part of that 45.7 was for them to hold tuition at the rate. Do you think by cutting them that they will also freeze tuition? Because isn't that the bottom line, is trying to save students money?
I don't necessarily think that they would have to increase tuition. They would still be receiving an overall increase in funding even without the 45 million. That would be their choice. But I think they could probably take that reduction in the increase in funding without having to increase tuition.
Okay. Any other discussion? Representative Riley.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I think that's a very good question. And to me, I think it should be up to the individual universities to make that decision. I mean, there will be some that we've already heard discussion that possibly they are tight and they do need to raise. So aside for the thinking about everybody raising tuition, I would be open to whoever needs to raise that tuition a certain percentage. Let's just say 5%. That's not a motion, but we're trying to let people in our universities keep up with inflation at this point. It just seems like if they were in that 4 to 5% increase on tuition, that would be right in the ballpark. So that was just my input back to the previous representative.
Representative Wassinger.
Thank you, Madam Chair. First, I want to explain where they came up with that 45 million. I don't know if everybody remembers, but they were restoring to FY 2021 funding levels. That would take 4.7 million. Then there's a 1.9% inflationary factor on general use budgets, which was 26.1 million. And then the adjustment to offset the equivalent of a 2% tuition increase would be 14.9 million. Would it be appropriate, Madam Chair, to give you a substitute motion?
Yeah, that's appropriate.
I would move that we give the Board of Regents 20 million now and let the 20.7 million go to Omnibus to decide. The 25.7, sorry. I apologize.
Okay, is there a second on the substitute motion? Representative Riley. Would you like to explain any more?
Well, I think that it brings them back to some of the figures that we were just talking about, and then allows Omnibus people on Omnibus to figure out whether or not there's enough money to give all of it. It gives them some wiggle room. It gives the schools the opportunity to.
Is there any discussion on the substitute motion? Representative Rajas.
Okay. So that would also mean, though, that tuition freeze will be off them. That's not on the table then anymore.
Sorry.
You the 20 million, and then.
That helps with the tuition. 14.9 was the 2%. And
So is that word, but of the, okay, so the breakdown of the 20.
Restoring to the funding, 2021 funding level and give the money for the tuition increase.
That's where that 20 million, you got that earmarked, that's where the 20 million is going to.
Pretty much. Well,
no,
that's what I'm assuming that they,
that's right.
That's where they broke it down. I think that was what would take care of it then. And then then we could figure out later if we could do the 26.3.
Right. But I think, which is fine, your substitute motion, I think it needs to be spelled out though where that money's going, because what I'm hearing is if it's a 20 million, then does that go into the Regents formula? Not regardless of what happens in Omnibus, because as you move forward right now, You said, I don't care. I just want to make sure, unless we spell it out, if that 20 million is going primarily to tuition and then the rest, then the balance and restoration, and then
Representative Rogers, if I could just, the 45.7 was not spelled out specifically. The 45 million was to the Board of Regents to be distributed. I don't know if that makes,
so where'd that number come from? Just out of the government come out of the sky?
I just told you. It was the 4.7 million for restoring
Okay.
your budget to 2021 levels.
Okay.
There was a 1.9% inflationary factor on general use budget,
Which money's that?
26.1. Adjustment to offset equivalent of 2% tuition increase, 14.9. And that comes to,
Okay.
but that wasn't written in the bill. I mean, that wasn't that, the 45.7 was
just the general.
general. If you look in the budget, that is generally where they came up with that amount. So just that's information. Representative Woodard.
Thank you, Madam Chair. It was my understanding from the presentation from the Board of Regents as well as the institutions, I believe the state was the one that actually had these numbers broken out as well. It's my understanding that it would take both the restoration of funding, very close to the mic, sorry, restoration of funding plus the inflation adjustment. And we all know where there's a lot of conversation about inflation being well beyond 1.9% right now. Both of those plus the 2% in order to keep tuition flat. So while I appreciate the maker of the motion for not cutting, but moving some of it off to omnibus, this is something similar to what the Senate just did today. I think this is our one chance to have this budget committee take a position. Otherwise, it goes to appropriations, it goes through that process. It doesn't come back here. So I believe that a vote for this motion is a vote saying that you want tuition to go up at our universities, because I believe that is what happens if we get stuck with just the 20 million restoration and enhancement and not the ultimate 45, which is what I interpreted the testimony to be, is what it would take to keep tuition frozen.
Representative Rogers, did I cut you off before? Did you have more to
I'm
say?
used to that, so no, that's fine. Okay, because and I appreciate the discussion, and that's, I think the representative from Douglas brings up a good point. I really think, and I don't know what the Senate did, but the way I understand it is the tuition freeze and the 45.7 go hand in hand. Not to say that we can't negotiate that as well, has been done in previous budgets, but you know, I guess that's where, to me, for whether I'm advocating for or not the enhancement, what is, as a committee, is our focus on keeping tuition frozen, or is it to do this? Now, does it mean they'll raise it 1%, 2%, 5%, 10%? I have no clue. I think it would be bad precedent for us to cut a recommendation and then say, oh, by the way, you can only raise tuition X. Then we're going down and then we're going to start picking winners and losers. And if that's what this committee wants to do, that's fine. But that's much of a global conversation. So either way, the way the committee goes, but I think if we're as we move down the road, and we can work on the budget that way, but just realizing that the idea of freezing tuition is probably off the table for now. That's that. I just want to make sure we understand that. And if we do, that's fine.
Representative Wessinger.
If I remember correctly, when we, it wasn't the governor that said this, but we said, we don't want you to raise tuition, we'll give you more money. Most of them did, regardless of what we said. So saying that we're not asking them to hold things in line is, we've done that forever, trying to keep things affordable for the students. So it doesn't matter what we say to them, they're going to do what they want to do. From my understanding for the last 4 years, there's a certain amount that they've tried to follow, but in the end, if they think they need to raise tuition, they're going to do it.
Representative Fairchild.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just wanted to point out, as far as the calculations that I did for 2023 with the governor's recommendation, we're looking at a 33% increase in SGF spending if that's what we pass. I just think for those of us at least who are conservatives and Republicans, to vote for that big of a spending increase, I think this goes completely against our values as fiscal conservatives. And, what I recommended wouldn't cut any spending. It would just result in a smaller increase in spending. And so I felt like it was a responsible proposal.
Representative Woodard.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thanks for the committee for the discussion. I just want to remind folks that institutions cannot raise their tuition. They make requests to the Board of Regents, who govern them and govern whether or not tuition does or does not go up or down. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Any other discussion on the substitute motion? Representative, would you like to close?
Madam Chair, I close.
Okay, committee, the substitute motion is to go ahead with 20 million now and put off 25.7 million to omnibus. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? I'm gonna have to, I couldn't tell. So those in favor, please raise your right hand. And opposed? Okay, so the motion passes. Okay, what else do we have? What else would, yes, okay, hang on just one second.
Just want to make sure, since there was a lot of discussion on tuition.
Yeah, I don't think it was it in the motion? I didn't hear it, but. Second, do you agree with that? That it wasn't? Okay, just making sure. Okay. All right, what else do we have discussion on? Anything else?
Madam Chair.
Representative Warren.
Thank you. I have an amendment. Is it an amendment or is it a proviso? What do I have? An amendment, I believe. Yes. And I have an amendment that is a proviso. This may be, Madam Chair, a working project after this amendment came out. I want to make sure that as we do our juggling that we don't have an unintended consequence. So what do I do? I need to pass the amendment out first on the tech schools.
Okay, committee, you can take a minute to look at this. And Representative, you can go ahead and to explain.
Thank you. I would add $7 million to the Career Technical Education Capital Outlay Aid. I believe the governor asked for. Right. But here's the challenge. I think where I have in there, what I have listed in the Career Technical Education Capital Outlay Aid, that is something that is divided amongst 9. There are 2 more that are added to that. That I believe there's a couple of community colleges that of that $1 million that's in there every year.
I might ask for a clarification. I think there's 7 technical colleges only, and then there's 9 community colleges that also have technical education.
Right, but if this is added to that 1 million, this kind of clouds the issue, I believe. What it does is this, unless we want to, well, let's just do this. I'll explain it, and I apologize that this is going to be discombobulated, but anybody in this room the last 4 years knows that I have a tendency to do this. The idea is is to add the $7 million for our technical colleges for capital expenditures, with the caveat of it's a 1-to-1 match. For every dollar they get in state funds, they would have to match. So to get double the value, so you get $1 million, you raise $1 million, now you have $2 million to use for CapEx. So, and then you have then through fiscal year 24 to get that accomplished. So to give time for fundraising and or the idea is either hard dollars or in kind for some of these technical colleges. So that's it. I just want to make sure that that doesn't get into that million. I think it's more the line of the 4 million that we need to add.
We can discuss.
Yes.
I mean,
So you understand the crux of what I'm getting at.
do we have a second? No. Second? Okay, wait, we need a second before you second? Well, we'll do discussion after we have a second. And then, okay, Representative Riley and Representative Fairchild for discussion.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I would say that if we're going to do this, we should also include the community colleges in it if it's possible to do that. And so that would be my suggestion if that's possible.
The community colleges that have a technical school? Okay. And you would divide the 7 million among those 16 schools? I think that's your discussion. Nope. Sorry, it's 7 schools plus 9. Am I getting that wrong? I think there's 7 technical schools, and I think there's 9 community colleges that also have a technical aspect to them. While we're thinking, Representative Fairchild, do you have more discussion?
I mean, do I need to make a counter motion if that's my proposal? I'd like to make a substitute motion to add the community colleges that have a technical college to the 7 million.
Okay, do we have a second on the substitute motion? Representative Riley. Did you, now discussion on the substitute motion. Did you have discussion, Representative Riley? Okay.
Just for clarification, going back to the original amendments author, Representative Rogers. So if we are, your original intention, was it not to make $1 million split between each one of those technical colleges? Is that not true?
No, each would be appropriated $1 million, which they would also have to raise $1 million to get that $1 million. Then they would have $2 million to use for capital expenditures.
Madam Chair, just for clarification, we are only talking about for expenditures that they need for equipment and things we're not talking about
capital outlay
right now, just capital outlay right now, correct?
If they need a building, which we heard in our presentation, some need buildings, some need equipment.
That was my question there, whether we were including buildings and capital outlay or whether we were including capital. I just need a clarification. That was my question. Back on the substitute.
Representative Amix.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and to the original maker of the first amendment, so that I'm clear, you say add $7 million. Is that on top of the enhancement that's in the budget? 4 million plus 7 million?
No, and that's where it would be an enhancement roughly of 3 million to that 4 million that's in the governor's budget, right?
So
Different line.
I think, correct me if I'm wrong, this is just for clarification's sake. Right now in the budget, there is capital outlay of 1 million in the governor's recommended budget.
That goes to the 9, correct?
That's a good question. Was that to the 7 plus the 9? Yes, I think so. Okay.
This amendment, the way it is written, is the 7 million goes to the 7 technical.
Yes.
Currently in the budget would be distributed all of them.
So this, the original amendment was an additional, that we're looking at right here, was an additional 7. And that 1 million that goes to the 7 plus 9
That would be
is
distributed.
completely different.
It always-
Okay, but right now we're on the substitute motion that would take that 7 million and split it among, and I don't know, Representative, if you would want that equally split among those 16 schools or what you had in mind. Okay. And then just to clarify, it's also a one-time, the original motion and the substitute, it's a one-time outlay of capital, right? That you're offering with the one-to-one match. Okay. Okay, we're on the substitute motion. Does anyone have any other discussion? Representative Woodard.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Whoever wants to answer this, where is the money coming from? Obviously not one-time projects, because we can't use MOE funding for capital projects.
I would assume it comes from SGF.
It's hard to vote against this because it benefits so many institutions. There also are provisions in here that we're reappropriating if they're not able to use it all. So I guess I don't have a question.
Okay, other discussion on the substitute motion? Okay, would you like to close? Excuse me, Representative Rajas.
I appreciate I appreciate the idea. That would basically take it down to $437,500. The idea is, and not to slight the community colleges are doing that work. I think maybe this, to go with the 7 that are on the cutting edge of, be careful what I'm going to say, because it's going to be interpreted wrong. The 7 in those communities that are doing the technical work, that need buildings, need capital expenditures, then we can go back and review if we do whatever the 9 or all 19 in next year, the year after, whatever. That's fine, but I guess I'm dealing in round numbers. $500,000 versus $1 million versus $2 million get you several different either buildings or different program enhancements. So that's the idea. This is a starting point. This isn't an ending point, but also it is a one-time situation, as we talk about in previous legislators and in legislatures, and we talk about the importance of technical schools, and we talk about all the things we're doing with economic development, and we need job training, and we need these positions filled. I think that's why I think this committee should have a strong presence that we are investing in our technical institutions. So thank you, Madam Chairman.
Okay, any other discussion? Representative Riley.
Madam Chair, I would make a proposal if the original maker of this substitute motion would change that to, I think it's 8 million, comes out a nice even number, divided by 12 comes up to that $500,000, if my math is right. I would second that motion if there would be a change that'd be a nice $500,000 per institution times 12 institutions if the original maker of the substitute motion would change that.
Okay, so I just found out from my intuition was correct. We don't make a substitute motion on the substitute motion. So we kind of need to deal with. Okay. A hint. Okay. Any other discussion? Would you like to close? Representative Fairchild.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'll close on my amendment.
Okay, on the substitute amendment, which takes 7 million and divides it equally with a 1-to-1 match between the 7 technical schools and the 9 community colleges that have a technical school in with them. That's what we're voting on. So all those in favor say aye. All those opposed?
No.
Okay, the ayes have it. The ayes appear to have it. Ayes do have it. So, okay, other discussions. Other discussion. Representative Rajas.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I also have a amendment. There we go. I've been busy. If you would pass that out.
Okay, Representative, would you like to explain?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I would add, I move we add $500,000 all SGF money to Fort Hays State University. They're operating expenditures for their proposed cybersecurity initiative for fiscal year 2023.
We have a second. Representative Amick, second. Okay, discussion on that one. Representative Wassinger.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, Representative, for making this motion. I think it's always good for us to see specific things where money's going. We'll see how that's doing. Is this a one-time? Is this
This will be put into their operating, and so as the program gets going, much like other programs have gone in the past. And so, yes.
just appreciate it. Thank you, sir.
Representative Amick.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and I appreciate the maker of the amendment. This is a wise investment for our state.
Any other discussion? Would you like to close?
I close.
Okay, all in favor of the amendment to add 500,000 SGF to Fort Hays State for cybersecurity initiative, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, the motion passes.
Chair.
Representative Rajas.
Question, and I don't think, did we ever get an answer in the budget about the cybersecurity enhancements of that $10 million? Did that, it's clear as mud to me. I don't know if we ever did get a full answer what that, if that's going back into the regions as a formula to the universities or what that actually is.
Okay, Representative, so it's 20 million and it's it goes through the Board of Regents to the state universities from what I understand. And there were not many specifics that we had from that proposal.
So it goes, Madam Chair.
Yes.
So it goes through, is there a formula in the regions, or do, say, the big three get is it for students? Is it for the intellectual property of the universities, or do we know? And is 20 million enough, or is it developing a program? I'm just trying to get, as we're talking about looking at dollars here, I mean, let's,
From what I understand, we don't have specifics on how it would be distributed. Now, typically, there's a percentage that each school gets when there's a lump sum. And so I could probably pull up the percentages. So I think you have an idea what they are. I don't know for a fact that this is how they intended to distribute that, was with those set percentages. But that, I don't believe we got specifics about that. Shirley?
It is technically for the systems within the university.
to protect IT within the,
Correct.
Okay.
Okay. Any other questions on that? While you're thinking, may I call on Representative Woodard? Representative Woodard.
My mic isn't on, I'm sorry.
Thank you, Madam Chair. We've heard from several of the institutions that cybersecurity is very important. Obviously, I'd like to see this stay in if we can keep that in the budget. As someone who's in my other life an affiliate of a university, I know that even our private institution is seeing a very large increase in cybersecurity threats, phishing attempts. And so based on the data and the research that's happening at all of our institutions, I think it would be a very wise investment to protect data and the research happening on our campuses. And so I think this would go a long way of making sure that our data is remaining data of the institutions, that employees aren't having emails attacked, that they're training folks on how to not risk themselves to those cybersecurity threats. And that's the new name of the game with these cyber criminals. And so anything we can do to protect what's happening on our campuses, I think, is all the better.
Any other discussion on that? Okay, I don't think we had a motion. It was just discussion. Okay, committee, other amendments, other motions people would like to make? Anything else?
Madam Chair,
Representative Rajas.
I don't have it in writing, but I would like to also put in the 2.1 SGF for Washburn for their innovation and ensuring pathways to student success program.
Would you like to, I can explain a little bit, or would you want to explain where you came up with that amount?
I'm looking at where it's coming from the recommendations from the regents, and the governor did not recommend adopting it.
Yep. Okay. Instead, the governor said, if I may add, or go ahead.
Right, and I understand that, but did we not take some of that out of that 14 million, or are we going to?
I don't believe we've taken any out.
Okay.
Oh, it's a flat 14 million, and so the governor added $1,554,013 to make it an even 14 instead of the total amount that Washburn had requested. Are you?
Okay. Well, if you think it's in there,
I think what they requested is one amount, and what the governor approved is a lower amount, from what I understand.
okay. Well, I will pull my motion.
Okay.
Sorry for the confusion.
Okay. Representative Wassinger.
Just as a clarification too, how much was put aside for the engineering? Surely, if you know.
Wasn't anything in the governor's budget this year, but that was the bill that was passed last year.
Well, I'd like
$1
okay, I'd like to make a motion to add Benedictine for their engineering program. Helping with their engineering program as we have others.
Second by Representative Riley. Representative Fairchild.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm sure all this is well intentioned, but we keep, adding more and more spending on to an already very large spending increase proposal from my perspective. And I think I'm going to oppose any additional amendments to increase any more spending.
Any other discussion? I'll go ahead and say, I believe, Representative, the way we got to that 200,000 was we have a statute that gives 10.5 million each year for 10 years to our three biggest universities, WSU, K-State, and KU, for their engineering program. And the purpose is to increase the number of engineering graduates. Benedictine is the only other college in the state that has an accredited program. And I believe what happened was, if you take 3.5 million and divide it by the number of graduates in each of the program, or 10.5 for all three of them, you get a number, and then if you take the number of graduates of Benedictine College and multiply by that number, it is about 200,000, and that's how we came to that. This is just so you all understand, from what I understand, this is a one-time, I mean, this is in our budget for this year. The engineering initiative is a statute normally for the other three schools. So this would be starting with them for them to help expand the number of graduates they have at Benedictine. And then if we choose next year, it can be in a bill. But for now, it's going to be in the budget, and that's just for fiscal year 2023. Representative Riley.
And thank you, Madam Chair. And my understanding of that original engineering bill was that it was not for tuition, it was for things outside of tuition. Is that not correct?
If you look at the statute, I mean, I could give you the number if you're interested, but the purpose was to increase the number of engineering graduates, and they could use the money for faculty, even, some capital things, they could use it for whatever they needed to help them move their program forward, is my understanding. Representative Riley.
I remember voting for that bill, but my understanding is tuition for the student was not included in that bill.
That's right. Any other discussion? Representative Woodard.
Thank you, Madam Chair. This could be for you or the maker of the motion. Do we know how many students are currently enrolled in the engineering program at Benedictine?
Yes. Right now, 2021, there's 250. And then each year, so in 2021, they will award 30 degrees. So the 200,000 was according to the degrees awarded rather than enrollment. You could look at it either way, but it seemed like degrees was what the original engineering initiative was mostly going for.
$200,000 can potentially train 30 more engineers.
Representative Rajas.
Thank you, and thank you for the maker of this amendment. So just to be clear, because the engineering initiative is for Regent schools, this is not run through the Regents have to write a check to another school, right? This would be SGF money. The way I read that, it's almost like a cousin to this engineering initiative, because the engineering initiative specifically goes to those three Regent universities. So I just want to make sure that we don't have an unintended consequence of the Regents writing a check to a private school.
No,
it's not.
No, it's just SGF.
Okay, I just want to make sure. Okay.
Discussion on the motion. Representative, would you like to close?
Madam Chair, I close.
Okay, you've heard the motion to add 200,000 to Benedictine College Engineering Program for fiscal year 2023. All those in favor say aye. Opposed? Okay, so the motion passes. Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and make an amendment, and because it's a little confusing, and so I'm just gonna go ahead and do it. I don't know that it's written up. Is it? It has to do with the 15 million one-time projects, and it's written. Okay. Okay, I'm going to explain to you a little bit about what it is first. So there's a budget item that is 15 million for one-time projects for the community colleges. And as you all have seen, I feel like the mood of the Appropriations Committee and even all of our committees is that we are liking specific things. We've just passed two very specific things in this committee. And so because of that, here's what I'm suggesting. We take that 15 million, and sorry, I'm going to read the motion. I'm going to read this, but it started out different than I was expecting it to. Okay. So we're going to take the 15 million and we're going to use it to close the gap. And the gap has to do, which we've talked about, and believe me, I had to hear about it like 100 times before I understood what it was. But as we know, there are community colleges that are underfunded and that are overfunded. You know, it has to do with this sheet that we've all gotten. If you take all of that and put it together, the governor has added $6 million to help close that gap. I'm proposing we take a portion of the 15 million one time in the projects and we add it to completely fund the schools that are underfunded in the formula. So everyone is completely funded. We keep the proviso in that says that we hold harmless the schools that are actually overpaid. And that would be around almost 12 million of that 15 million. Okay. Then there's 3 million left. And I'm going to suggest that we add that to what we've kind of already talked about, but that we add it to the capital outlay for the technical colleges. So that will be a little bit extra there. So that 15 million one time will be gone. And then we will completely take care of the gap for this year. And then the extra piece in this amendment creates a 9-member working group to study how do we actually, we've all been using the word recenter. How do we recenter so that we don't keep having the gap with the overfunded and the underfunded? And so it's been suggested that we might do a 3-year rolling average. There's a lot of things, but we need to take care of it. It's gone on for 12 years. And so the working group would be a 9-member working group, and it would study how to fund the community colleges. It would be 3 members of the community colleges, 2 technical community college members, 1 member from the Board of Regents, and 3 legislators, the chairman of higher ed budget, the ranking of higher ed budget, and then the chairman of the education committee in the Senate. Yes. So we'll hand that out. And I know it's a little bit confusing. It's taking a little bit of this and a little bit of that and putting it in different places. Representative Riley.
Thanks, Madam Chair. I will second your motion if you need a second.
I do.
And then I would like to just have you clarify, because I know this question is coming. So what are you designating as your term of technical colleges? 7, 9, 12.
It's a great question. It's the 9. And it is the same as the it's got the match to it. Hang on. I'm going to find out the answer to your question, but I would like to ask let Representative Wynn mention whatever she wants to talk
on the same line. So does then this motion mean it's 10 million there? But it's not.
Great question. We could use that set. We could use the leftover of the 15 to supplement.
That's what you said.
I didn't say that, but I think
supplement that.
No, I did not, but I think that's a great, I like that idea if the second would agree with it, that what we have left over of that 15, which is about 3 million, would go to supplement Representative Rajas's earlier amendment.
Okay, but it's not that easy, because you have to, if your answer to him did not include total number. You just said
include the total. We would include the total number.
You didn't include community colleges.
the community colleges that do have the technical schools. So total of 16, the same as the substitute motion that
That's
we,
not what you answered, Representative Riley.
yep. I mean, I felt like I was still getting in, processing and getting a little more information.
Keep processing.
Okay, I'll try.
You don't oppose it, it's just not clear.
Okay, believe me, I know, I understand why it's not clear, and this is even confusing as you read here. Representative Riley, did you have a question?
Just waiting for your answer to the number.
My
I mean, I
answer,
will second that number.
right.
Just one-
So again, I'm just going to run through it really quick. Take that 15 million, take almost 12 and put it up, added to the 6 that the governor put in to take care of the tiered and non-tiered. We're completely funding the underfunded and we're holding harmless the overfunded. There's about 3 million extra that we're going to use to supplement Representative Rajas's and the substitute motion of Representative Fairchild's earlier motion. And it would just add into that 7 and it would be for the 16. Yes.
So I would second the 16 part. Okay.
Okay. So second, Representative Fairchild.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I was just wondering if you consulted with people from the community colleges on this amendment.
Yes, I did. Representative Woodard.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So to further clarify, this 3.119 million would be moved into what's already passed, which was the $7 million plus 1 million, so 8 million. So we're basically subtracting 8 million minus 3.1, and that's what basically we funded earlier. It's not 3.1 plus 8 million.
That's right. Yeah, that's right. Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
Yeah, that's right. Now, can y'all imagine having to explain this in the Appropriations Committee? When we get to that, I'll be needing you in that committee. So if we pass this, so, and Ken, right.
I'm totally confused.
Okay.
Is it, and again, the committee passed the Fairchild Amendment, substitute amendment. So I have no clue really where we are on any of it. So
Can you hold on 1 second?
yes.
Okay, so just to clarify, what we passed before was the Fairchild Substitute Amendment had 7 million going to all the 16 schools. There's still 1 million in for only the technical schools. Okay, and then my amendment takes the extra left over from the 15, so it's about 3.1 million, and we add it into to help pay for the 7 million of the Fairchild Amendment. So it's still, there's still the 1 million that is a different line that goes just to the 7 technical schools. And then there is the 7 that goes to the 16 schools. And we're paying for some of that 7 with the leftover from the one-time 15 million from the community colleges.
Sure.
Yes.
So then we're really looking at based on the governor's rec, the dollar amount, we're roughly looking at 4.9 or 4.8, blah, 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 additional. Correct?
Yes.
Right. So
Instead of adding 7, we're only adding.
we're moving the shells as well, in a sense. We're adding the 4.9. We said 7, but it's really 4.9 because the money was already in the governor's budget. We're putting down help pay for some of the 7 million. So
It's really 3.9.
I'm sorry, you're right. I was not good at math. I won't tell you where I went to school. High school, that is. Come on. Okay, but so it still goes back to 7. Regardless of how we get there, there's $7 million going to technical colleges, and some are also community colleges, correct?
Got distracted. Could you repeat that?
No, I just want to make sure that as we go and explain this to appropriations,
Yeah.
how you get there, I mean, that's going to be an interesting ride. But the bottom line is there are through the governor's recommendation dollars and what this committee is doing, there'll be 7 million will go to community tech, those that do technical education on that level with a one-to-one match, correct? That's where we are with that. That's the way I understand it. I just want to make sure.
Yes, but I'm getting a little bit of a clarification from the powers that be right here. So can you wait just 1 second? Stand at ease. Just 1 second, y'all. Okay, we have had a bit of a powwow here. I think I think I have the answer. Do you have a question, or maybe I might explain and it might answer your question? Would that be okay? Oh, go ahead. But you won't put your hand down. So what's your question?
Thank you, Madam Chair. From a proud graduate of a one-room schoolhouse, why don't you just take 3 million off of this 15, leave Representative Fairchild's bill alone, or his amendment alone, take 3 million off of this, divide it out the way you want, and not be concerned with the other 3 million. Just make it 12.
Okay. I think that works too. I think we can go either way with that. So, but here's what I do want to clarify. It's 1.07. So the basically 1 million that is in there already that the governor approved is not a 1-to-1 match. The 7 million that we put into, I'm going to just say the 16 schools. We mean the 7 technical schools plus the 9 community colleges that have a technical program. The 7 extra we put in is a 1-to-1 match for capital outlay projects. Okay, so the way we handle the funding can be, we can leave it at that. And then the one-time projects, which is 15 million, we need to take out from that. If you look at this, we need to take out 11.88 million. So it leaves about 3.1 in that 15 million. We can either take that 3.1 and use it to pay for the 7 that we already spent today, or we can just take it out of the 15. I think either way is equally the same. And Shirley's frowning. Do you have a preference on which one would be easier to do a budget, to do the line item budget, to do the Shirley? Yes, I am. Is that allowed? Okay, no, never mind. Okay. Okay. So I think we're just going to go with the original motion. Great suggestion. Here's where we're going to leave it. Representative Wassinger, do you have something to say? Okay. This is what we're going to leave it. How we're going to leave it. Create a working group of 9 people. That's part of it. Number 2, take the 15 million of one time, use 11.9-ish million of it to fund the gap completely, and leave others whole. Leave the underfunded. What's it called? Whole harmless. Thank you. I've already said it today. Then there's what's left in that 15 million is about 3.1 million. We will be using that to help fund Representative Fairchild's substitute motion that we already passed earlier. And that motion, if you recall, is a 1-to-1 match, and it goes to the 16 technical programs across the state. Is that clear? Okay. Okay, now discussion. Representative Wassing.
There's only one thing. I want to close the gap, period. I think that needs to be done. But I know that the people that have been overfunded have not been saving all that overfunding. And they are going to wonder where they are in this mix. That's one thing that. So in order to hold them harmless, right now they feel like they're being responsible for taking more money, which it depends on how you look at it. Is this making sense to everyone? That perhaps we bring everyone up somewhat. Is that, I mean, that's
So I think holding them harmless this year does that. And then the working group will come up with a plan on how to give them ample time to be able to realign. Maybe they're going to need to go back to their tax base and, you know, raise something. I mean, some of them have unencumbered funds that they're going to be able to use, but I agree with you. Cutting them off immediately is not the right way to do it. But yet I hear other people say that, well, we've been talking about this for 12 years, and so we're never going to do it. I think we have to commit as a committee that we want to do it. That's what the working group is for. Hold the working group accountable next year if we come, that we must come up with a plan that takes care of this. And I think for the first time ever, from what I understand, the community colleges are all on board and understand that we have to do something. Representative Riley.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And point B, that I do not envy you when it comes time to explain all this to appropriations. So I will try to be there and listen in when you do that.
Just smile and nod at me. That's what I'm going to need. Okay, any more discussion? Any more discussion? Yes, Representative.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And thank you for your motion. I think it encompasses a lot of the conversations we heard from the community colleges. It also sets out a plan for us to address this in the future. So I'll be supporting your motion. Thank you.
Any other discussion? Okay, I close on my motion. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Opposed? Okay, the motion carries. Okay, now, Representative Wassinger.
I propose or move that instead of putting funds into a student financial aid funds into a Kansas Access Partnership grant, that it go into the Kansas Comprehensive Grant and be made possible for a match for one match for everyone, not just endowment funds. And if we want to, we can limit the amount of that. I would like to make sure the $25 million.
Do we have a second? Representative Riley. Would you like to explain do you want to say anything else?
Then there's no reason to start another program financially. It needs, we have underfunded kids trying to get to school that don't have the money for school, and we've picked winners and losers. We've only allowed endowment funds to match it. We haven't taken into consideration private funds that can match things like that. And I think it's time that we even the playing field for all students who need funds.
Thank you. I'm going to add that so the comprehensive grant goes to the student. It's need-based scholarship, and it's for the students, and it's not specific to the universities. And so it has traditionally been about half goes to students that attend public schools and about half go to students that attend the private schools. And so, but just to clarify, this new money would need a one-to-one match, which is the same as
the other one.
What's in the governor's budget, but it just would be instead of a new program. Okay. Okay, any other discussion? Representative Woodard.
Madam Chair,
Can we put all new money? So the new money would have a one-to-one matching grant, not touching the old money.
Representative Woodard.
Madam Chair, a question for the maker of the motion. Mentioned that we've only allowed for endowed funds before, which isn't true because we never passed this before. But my question would be, your motion says the one-to-one funding is outright cash and not endowed funds. Is that correct? You know, Kansas is lagging behind so many states when it comes to need-based aid. And so, you know, I kind of going both ways on this. We hear from so many people in this building that they want our universities, public universities, to go out and raise money that we've cut from them year after year. So if we were to do this and not keep it in what the new program would have been, the Kansas Access Partnership Grant, we're leaving $543 million of private funding that could be out there and leveraged out there to create new endowed scholarships that would then generate enough money to have that $25 million match, which would be transformative for our students at our public universities. That is so much. I mean, you look back at the recent foundation campaigns of our larger institutions, and they were in the billions. This would be huge for them. And so to vote to not leverage endowed funds is tough for me. I also have a little bit of concern. I mean, 12.5 million in new dollars for both, assuming that was split 20, in half of that going to the public, half going to the private. $12.5 million in need-based aid for our independence is huge injection of funding, and they educate far fewer students than the public system. And so I'm not necessarily opposed. I think I will have to oppose this motion, but we'll see where it goes. But I do think if we were to inject new funding that needs to happen into need-based aid, into the comprehensive grant, if we could look at doing it proportionate with the new dollars, I think it might make a greater impact for all students. Stop rambling, but I think I'm going to be a no on this one, and we'll see where it goes. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Representative Wassinger.
I don't think it's divided evenly, because when it comes to financial aid, it just depends on what students apply for it. So by saying half of it would go to just a private, what students would apply for it, and I would think that would be just as evenly distributed as it would be now. Do you understand what I'm saying? Just like any federal grants, none of them discriminate between whether you're in a public university or a private university. Make it open to all students, whether or not they're where they're going. Does that make sense?
Representative Woodard.
And maybe this is a question for Shirley if she's willing, but if we were to add new money without any sort of direction on how that is used, since we're currently using the comprehensive grant about half going to public and half going to independents, wouldn't we assume that that's how this new money would be utilized as well?
Yes.
Shirley. Other discussion, Representative Riley.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. So I guess re-examining the answer from the reviser Is that, or even research, is that where we are at right now in previous history, that grant has been divided 50-50, or is it a proportional thing like the previous representative was saying?
Shirley?
History of the last 12 years. There have been legislative changes the percentages of the money, 40, 60, or something like that, more went to the private so change.
Can I ask a clarifying question? That has the comprehensive grant, like I'm remembering when we added to it last year for the maintenance of effort, we didn't specifically instruct that it's 50-50. So it's not a specific instruction. It's the way it has tended to be spent. Is that correct?
Change.
Okay. Okay. One other thing I'll add, I know we have more students that are eligible for the comprehensive grant than we have ever had money. And so adding to it, and it's for, you know, again, it's to the student and not to the institution. So, but we've never been able to take care of all the students that are eligible. Representative Woodard.
Thank you, Madam Chair. We'll see if this gets a second, but I am going to make a substitute motion. Substitute motion that would move 10 million of the 25 million into the Kansas Comprehensive Grant and keep 15 million in the new Kansas Access Partnership Grant.
Do you want the 10 in the comprehensive grant to have a match? Because right now the comprehensive grant does not have a match, but you would have to.
Yes, with a match.
Is there a second? Representative Amix for a question.
So currently, is there a match?
There's not. It would require the new money going in to the new comprehensive grant to have a match from both public and independents. And then for the existing proposed Kansas Access Partnership Grant, that would be a one-to-one match. So where the new money, the new program is requiring match, it would still be that match would carry over in the 10 million going to the comprehensive grant. There'd remain a match for the 15 million that would remain in the Kansas Access Partnership Grant.
Representative Wassinger. I don't have a second yet. Representative Amix. Okay, now Representative Wassinger.
The biggest problem I have with the substitute motion is we're creating yet another program. How many full-time employees do we need for that? How much we have to design all sorts of new things. It just does not make sense to me. I would be happy to vote for something if you divided it up within the comprehensive grant. I can't support this.
Any other discussion? Representative Woodard.
Thank you. I appreciate the comments from the last speaker. I do believe, though, that if we are able to go out to the private sector and draw down matching new endowed funds that can be matched with these state dollars, it pays dividends for increasing need-based funding and scholarship support for our students, which is making up for the history of this building, making so many cuts to higher education funding that the burden has shifted from the state choosing to invest in about half the cost of a four-year degree and shifting that to our students or the consumers. And so while it might require some additional paperwork, I think all of the institutions would be willing to do whatever it takes to go out and leverage that private support that could be anytime you can have a match, you're going to have a much easier conversation with the donor because they're going to be more likely to fund something like that, knowing that the state's, got skin in the game as well, and getting back to a place of really caring about our students and making it affordable.
Is there any other discussion on the substitute motion? Would you like to close?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I close.
Okay, all those in favor of the substitute motion for moving 10 million into the comprehensive grant with a match and leaving the the Kansas Access Partnership with 15 million, please say aye if you're in favor. Those opposed? Okay, I think I'll need a vote. Those aye, please raise your right hand. All those opposed, raise your right hand, same sign. Okay, so the motion fails. We're back on the original motion. Is there any other discussion? Representative Wassinger.
I want to make sure, can we put in there that it does not matter where the grant, the proportion, or do we have to do it by statute? Is that what I heard? Do we have to do some additional legislation? Make it need-based for everyone. I don't care whether where you go to school or what you're doing, and get a match and get some matching funds, which would be endowment funds or private.
And if I could ask one other clarifying, this might be for the maker or maybe to one of you all. If we say it's a one-to-one match and it can use private funds, or, it could use endowment funds, but it doesn't have to be. But it could just. Well, the current access, could you read us what it is, what the actual language is? That would be great. That would be helpful.
So the current language says for the private access account, it says all expenditures from such account shall be for such scholarships to such state educational institutions that require a match of local non-state monies on a one-for-one basis from either such institution or private funding.
Okay. Okay, so would you like to close?
Madam Chair, I close.
Okay, all those in favor of switching the Kansas Access Partnership 25 million over to the Kansas Comprehensive Grant with a stipulation that the new funds would have a match, please say aye. Opposed? I think the ayes have it. So the motion passes. Okay, committee, what other discussion, any other amendments that anyone has on the budget? So this is your time for recommendations. I know we're a little bit after, but I'm actually pleased that we didn't go over even more. I knew it was going to be a long day. So any other motions or amendments? Any other thoughts? Representative Riley.
Yes, Madam Chair. When it's appropriate time, I do have minority report that I'd like to just read that would go in with the appropriations report.
Okay, let's see if there's any more amendments and then we can do that. Any other amendments that anyone has? Before we do that, Shirley and Jill, I in my notes we did 5 amendments. Is that what you all have? I want to make sure. Oh, 8. We'll have to talk then. We won't make the whole committee go through that. So I thought there were 5 that we voted on. Okay, Representative Riley, go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And this is just a discussion with the Board of Regents and the state universities. So, and this is not held as any kind of this is just my thinking on what's going on. So I have noticed that with increased regularity that many students do not attend a university to learn. They're attending for a degree rather than for education. Many parents pamper and overpraise their students rather than challenging their students to be committed to hard work and learning. Many students' goal is not learning from the process of education, but learning how to play the academic game. I would challenge the board of directors to redefine their mission statement for all universities to develop graduates that are not only the top of their field in academic excellence, top of their fields in skills, but also become engaged citizens with the highest degree of character and integrity that support the core principles of hard work, freedom, and liberty. I would also challenge the board of directors to join with students in finding purposeful vocations that match their education. When they graduate, that no more than 25% of their first year's income is in school loan debt. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Representative. Okay, Bonnie, so now we have come to the point where we need to approve the governor's fiscal year 2023 budget as amended. Shirley, why don't you give us just just so everyone knows what we're voting on, if you don't mind. Thank you.
So of the 45.7 million, 20 million will be appropriated in the current bill, with 25.7 million reviewed at omnibus and no tuition freeze in the motion. Number 2, 7 million to technical and the community college in the capital outlay. The 1-to-1 match and up to 2 years to expend the funds. $500,000 to Fort Hays State for the cybersecurity initiative. $200,000 to Benedictine for the engineering initiative program. Move the $15 million to the community colleges one-time projects, with 11.8 million into the tiered and non-tiered, and 3.1 million into the capital outlay. And the last one is move the 25 million excess scholarship into the comp grant with a 1-to-1 match.
Okay, does anyone have any questions on that? Any other? Yeah, Representative Amex.
Thank you, Madam Chair. When we go to appropriations, or when you go to appropriations, as that's right, I'm sorry. The remainder of the $45.7 million, if available, we're going to work as hard as we can to get that put back into this budget, correct?
That's what we're saying, is that we're holding it off to omnibus to see where we're at with all the rest of the budget. So that would be our recommendation from our committee. Would be 20 now, 25.7 at omnibus. Yeah.
As long as it's understood that we're going to be working as hard as we can. We've been told told that there will be money available, revenues available. It's our goal as a committee to make sure that we go for the remaining balance. Thank you, Madam.
That's what we voted on. Okay, any other discussion on that? All those in favor of accepting the governor's recommendations with our amendments? We did. Oh, I thought we did both. We did not. Okay. Do we have a motion?
Madam Chair, I would move the higher ed budget for fiscal year 2023 as amended.
Representative Wassinger seconds. Hey, committee, I'm sorry. I thought we had done that. We've had discussion. I will open it. I feel like I need to open it up in case anyone else has any last thing that they want to say. Okay. Yep. Representative Rogers.
Thank you, Madam Chair. We do our notations after the budget passes. Is that correct? Or would we do that now? I don't remember. It's COVID.
Any recommendations we have, we need to, or what notations are you?
Any notation or comment that you want to add to the subcommittee report would be in this committee.
Right, but would we do it before or after we vote on the budget? Is it now or afterwards?
It's with.
So now, would you like to add something?
Yes, Madam Chair. I would like to have a notation commending Chancellor Gerard, the University of Kansas, and his team for fiscal responsibility in this last budget year.
But we do need to vote on that. If that notation is going to be included in our committee report, then we do need to vote on that. Do we have a second? Representative Wassinger. Any discussion? All those in favor of Representative Rogers' notation, say aye. Opposed? Okay, so that will pass and that will go into our committee report. Anything else? Representative Woodard, would you like to close?
Madam Chair, I will close on my motion.
Okay, all those in favor of passing out the higher education budget for 2023 with the governor's recommendations with the amendments that we placed and notation, say aye. Opposed? Motion passes. Okay, so I do want to mention, sorry, and that is, we do have money in the budget now, which we all know that. But when like for instance, the 45 million, the 20 now, the 20.5 later, that's ongoing. That's not one-time money that we are putting into the budget. I just want everyone to be aware. One-time money is like, we're gonna do something with the docking building. That's going to be one time. But when we put something in the budget, or for instance, our what we did with the technical colleges, that's a one time because we said that that's what it was for. But when we put things in the budget, it is in the budget from now on. I just want everybody to be clear as we're talking about that. Okay. Body, it's been great being with you these weeks. We won't have meetings, of course, the rest of this week, and then I'll just let you know when we will have budget hearings, bill hearings on some of the sales of property that our Regent universities want to undertake. So, okay, thank you everyone for your hard work. I really appreciate it. We're adjourned.